Welcome back, and today we are going to be taking a look at the P40F. Now, on paper they look very similar, however the engine is a little bit different. Now, if you look in the X-ray in the menu, you will see that the other one actually has more power. This is however only on the deck, and despite this thing being slightly heavier, it has a supercharger and therefore will perform much better when it comes to medium to high altitude. That does not mean however that this thing is actually any good at it, because overall the airframe is just kind of mediocre. Now it does turn kind of okay. The main issue is that this thing just does not have enough power for the airframe that it's presented with. It's also not that great at high speed, so you are kind of left over with a machine that doesn't really like to do anything. It's not fantastic at being slow because of the lack of power, and it's not that great at being fast either because, well, it compresses majorly. On top of that, the engine overheats quite badly as well, and I didn't really have a great time flying it, but that makes for a great opportunity to take a look at planes that don't handle that well and how to make most out of every situation. Now, I made a few other of these videos, but there's so many scenarios that I think having another one will never hurt anything. So I'm going for the P39Ks. Now the P39Ks are luckily a bit worse than the P39N, they're a lot heavier, but I feel like they're not looking at me, and the Key 43 kind of rocks up, and I want him dead. It doesn't matter who's flying that thing, it's going to be annoying, whereas with the P39K, they at least have to have a little bit of a brain. However, the squad actually does see me, and now I'm in a little bit of a 2v1 against better planes in a squad at a disadvantageous position. So I'm going to try to actually just bait him to the deck. I'm going to drop my throttle slightly to not compress and make him overshoot. So I'm trying to stay out of his guns, rolling around, making sure that he compresses the same way. Trying to reverse him, almost get behind him here, but this teammate is covering for him, so I'm not able to give chase. We dodge his guns as well. You see that I'm already going 500, and they do a bit of a flat turn, so I'm going to use this opportunity to get a bit of separation. Now yes, they can chase me down and I will probably die, but I can at least make it so that they burn all their speed doing so. Setting them up for my team, and winning is of course in the end the most important factor. Notice the Yak 1 coming in, and I make sure to turn under him so that if he tries to go for me, he blows both his wings off, and he does exactly that. Now, it's only the P39s left, but I'm only going 500. They still have an energy advantage and they have a lot of altitude, but I think that I got lost by the fact that the spotting on this map is absolutely atrocious. You can see about a kilometer ahead, a kilometer above, like maybe 1.5, so I think I just kind of snuck away by getting under the radar. And we took out the Yak 1 doing so. The P39s lost a lot of speed trying to chase me down, and you can tell that I'm gonna try to get my speed back up so that I can start booming zooming them a little bit later from now, because I cannot win that fight if we play it fairly. And normally I cut this out, but with a plane like this stuff right here is important. I'm trying to kind of bait my teammate. I'm trying to make sure that I get above them. When you don't have an energy advantage in a plane like this, you are probably going to struggle. Now I'm going to be turning around, I'm going to be trying to close the gap, and I'm going to try to make sure that I don't burn out my engine too much, because I need it when I'm actually in a fight. So I'm going to start just laying off the web the second I have enough altitude. I feel kind of confident here. But it depends for now what that P39 is doing, and I'm hoping that he goes to the P39Q because he's smoking, he's a very apparent target, and if he does so, I have a little bit of room here to actually get something done. But then the I-153 shows up. Now the P39K slams my teammate, but he is now very low and he doesn't have the most amount of energy. And I can do two things. I can either go for the I-153 because it's a very much a brain dead plane like the Key 43 that I prioritized earlier. However, this time around I don't think it's worth it, because if I go for him right now, there's a big chance that he dodges the head on and I have to run away. So in this scenario, I'm actually going to go for the teammate that is being battered right now, because I'm hoping to actually help him out. I'm still trying to kind of use him as bait so I can have them distracted and I can maybe get a free kill in. And yes, I'm going to be sacrificing a lot of energy versus the I-153, but I know that he will never really catch me in this instance, and it's going to take him a bit to get to us anyway. So I'm going to try to make a pass, try to kill the most annoying planes, and then I'm going to be leaving. Can't go for the P39 because I'm going to be compressing, switch on over to the Key 27. Not really able to do so, and I'm going to be wasting a bit of energy here, but I need to get at least a kill out of this engagement. So I go for the RE 2001. And we kind of just pitch away. Now I'm not going to go straight up because they are going to be out climbing me, and they might actually get some shots on me because I'm going to be giga slow, and making yourself a slow big target when there's like 3 people around is an absolute recipe for disaster. Now we have the Key 27 behind us, and I'm flying towards the airfield, and I of course don't want to do that, so I'm going to be turning around promptly. But I don't really have another direction to go in, because this fight is a little bit of an issue. The Key 27 will outclimb me in the long run, believe it or not, and the I-153 is also equally annoying. So what is the best course of action when you have 650 KLs with a decent damage model against 2 planes that don't have functioning guns and are made out of paper mache? You guessed it, it's going head on with them. Now this is of course something that I don't advise you to do versus many planes, but when you have 2 planes that are vastly superior in terms of maneuverability to the point where you basically can't hit them, and you outgun them and out armor them this much, I'm gonna take my chances and I'm gonna go for the little bit of a double whammy. Now it works out absolutely beautifully. Now if they both dodge me, then they turn around, they start spraying at me from like 0.6, and it's gonna take me forever to actually get away from them. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But at least, hey, I'm actually faster than them, which is an actual advantage, which is something you don't get to experience very often in this thing. Now I could have chosen to go RTB, go land, but the P-39s were also going RTB to land, and I actually already had a bit of altitude. I also had a bit less fuel in me, and 900 rounds is more than sufficient for 3 extra kills. Well, 2 actually, but because the last is a bomber, and I'm mostly concerned about the 2 last P-39s. And it's night spotting, and now, because I didn't go RTB and I kept my altitude, I have a major advantage over both of these 2 guys. Now the issue is that they are both very clearly communicating with each other. They are playing together very well. And if one of them spots me, both of them are going to see me. So despite the fact that the spotting is very low right now, the jump on them is going to be very short-lived. I need to make sure that I kill at least one of them in the first pass, and then I can maybe try and win the 1v1. I need to be careful because their plane is simply just a lot better. Now luckily, they didn't see me in time, and this guy was being super slow because he was still climbing. We get some pretty free shots in, and despite the fact that I'm compressing, I'm gonna be completely okay. Now I can fly away from him and store my energy, but I'd rather be aggressive while I have the energy to do so, because he's super slow right now, and this is probably the biggest advantage that I can give him. So despite me having a major advantage, it's actually best to use it almost immediately because of that. Now if I had missed that shot, I would have been able to stall above him one more time, probably would have gotten 1, maybe 2 if he played it very poorly, extra shots in. If I miss both of those, it's game over. The performance gap is too big, and if you have a lot of energy, if you have a major advantage over someone and their plane is vastly superior, you're better off trying to kill them as soon as possible, because if you wait too long, your advantage might just kind of melt under the sun. Over the long term, they have a better plane, so the longer I wait, the worse my situation is. And I see this very often where people are like, but your plane is much better, so I'd rather play it safe. I'd rather make sure that I don't make a risky pass. But the longer you wait, the more opportunity you give the better plane to kind of claw back the disadvantage and build an advantage over you. And when the better plane has the advantage, it will win 99% of the time. Of course you have exceptions when you are dogfighting someone and you underestimate the enemy plane, or you make a mistake, or just something happens that wasn't meant to happen. Sure, but if you go by the basis, if you go by the fact how it should go, the better plane will always win, even if it is at a disadvantage, if it has enough room to breathe, because you can't just claw back any disadvantage that you have. Of course, is plane dependent. Mostly comes down to planes with very good climb rates or very fast planes, but it of course depends on the matchup. I think you get the point. P-39 gets slapped in the head on by a J-22, absolutely fantastic trade. The P-39K is pretty okay, and the J-22 is just absolute dog shit with a good set of guns on the plane. So that's a win in my book. And this is the game where basically everything goes right. We have a major energy advantage, no one is really contesting us, and these games just kind of happen. You can't really force these, you just have to get lucky, and I do want to show you these because it's important when you are flying a bad plane, especially when it's stock, and stock planes most of the time are pretty bad, so that is of course completely applicable. It is important to be a little bit aggressive when you have all the advantages, because if you try to play it slow, yet again, most of the time, by the time you actually reach the battle, the game is essentially over, and you want to avoid this because you are trying to get kills up E, and you're just trying to maybe have some fun, and just flying straight the entire game is not gonna let you do that. So it's important that whenever you can, that you try to frag out as much as possible, because it will make up for the games that, well, I'm about to show you. And the previous game as well, because that game would have gone quite a bit differently if that first P29K that actually got some hits on us after the Yak 1 ripped his wings off. If he had given chase, guess what? The game is over. I die. I can't really do much, and I think I got saved by the spotting mechanic. But this game right here is exactly what I mean with the P40 being the underdog. And you kind of have to play around the game that's being given to you. And you kind of just have to go, fuck it, we ball, because if you don't, you're not going to get anything done. You notice the Spitfire and the Key 43, which are busy with someone else, so I thought I might get an easy kill in. Unfortunately, we only get some hits, but I can turn around right now and hopefully kill one or two of those guys while they are completely distracted by my P39. Now, he's diving a bit too hard and he's making it so that I have to sacrifice quite a bit of energy. But I notice on the right that I'm already below them, so at that point I might as well just commit to this fight. Now I get some shots in, I'm compressing too much, we don't do any severe damage, and we just leave. And this might look super sloppy, very scrappy, very sketchy, and you'd be correct. But as Sun Tzu says in the Act of War, your enemy can't guess your strategy if you don't have any to begin with, which is exactly what this is. I'm trying to just get something done, and I need these numbers to fall down because my team is dying. I have the entire Luftwaffe above me, and if I get pushed into something like a Spitfire or a Key 43, the game is over. So for now I'm just trying to get a little bit of separation, and I'm gonna see if I can maybe try to do something. I'm looking behind me to kind of guess where the entire Luftwaffe is, but you can tell my team is done. There is really nothing going to happen here, but we are gonna try to clutch this back, and we are gonna, well, just watch and see. We're actually going to use flaps to turn into the head-on because I need to hurry the hell up. Go ahead on with the Key 43, same deal as before, but this guy is super slow and he's not trying to shoot at me whatsoever, so we get a pretty easy shot in. Spitfire comes in, and again it's one of those turny planes that I can't really deal with, especially if it's a 2v1, and we knock out his cooling. Now in the long term he's of course going to cook his engine completely. In the short term he is still going to be a little bit annoying, so I'm going to try to keep him slow. I'm going to try to make him fly after me so that he gets as far away from his runway as possible. But I think I killed more than his cooling, and his engine might actually be just completely dead. So that is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to try to get a little bit more separation in the event that his engine cuts out completely, he starts gliding, or maybe tries to go RTB. But I have a little bit of time until the 190 runs into us. Mr. Raptor actually bails out, and if Raptor hadn't bailed out, he might have actually been able to glide into this dogfight and tell me what's up. Now the 190 is coming in, and at high speed especially he's much stronger, and even at low speed he will out dogfight me because his engine is much better. However, Mr. 190 is absolutely petrified of the P40 in the 3v1, so much so that he starts pitching up at 2 kilometers behind us, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But if you want to play it safe, be my guest, I guess. So we are going to go straight for a little bit. I'm going to try to cool the engine. I'm not trying to climb too much because I will slow down too much. And he's about to start diving on us again. And I know that because that's what they always do. They are just scared to actually commit to the fight. And for now, I'm just hoping that one of them gets bored and runs away. There we go. The 109 is leaving me because I am running. There's 2 people on my 6. And he probably thinks, well, he's going to be dead by the time I get there. Which is probably correct, especially if the 109 actually came in. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna try to pitch under them, hope that they fly into the ground. 190, the first one, is playing it super safe, exactly as predicted. And the second one is the complete opposite, where he just kind of commits into the fight. Now what am I gonna do? I know I have a little bit of room versus the passive one, because he is giving me a lot of room to work with. The second one is so aggressive that I feel like if I just go under him, he might just end up kissing a tree, and he does exactly that. The 190 is now behind and above us, but he pitches away and he just starts climbing in the straight line, and he gives me, well, a super free opportunity to just kind of shoot at him. And this is why playing super risk averse might actually be more risky in the long run, because if he had just kept turning in what direction at all, it doesn't even matter what he did, I would have been out of energy. But he didn't. He had to use his energy, he had to climb away because he had an altitude advantage. And because of that, I get some free shots in. I try to do the same thing, go underneath him, hope that he's actually like a little bit upset that he got hit. And now he's playing it aggressively, but he doesn't have a functioning engine. So I'm going to try to kind of stall on top of him. I'm going to try to stay out of his guns. I'm going to drop the flaps here and hopefully stall directly on top of him, or at least above him. and we should be able to pitch straight into him. Now I am cutting throttle here because I'm trying to not burn up my engine, and then I hear his engine basically cutting out. And then he throttles back up the second I turn away, so that's a bit of a mistake. I should have committed to him, but now I have the ability to set up for the 109 at least and end up in a head-on. Now the 109 is going much quicker, and it's a 109E. The 109E, and it's an E4 on top of that, has much more power, turns a lot better, and is overall an absolute menace in a dogfight. But because he was going so fast into that merge, and I forced the scissor, he's gonna end up actually passing out in front of us. And if you want more info on that, I made a flying guide on defensive flying, which should explain that a little bit more in depth. Because of that, I'm now actually on a 6, and I'm able to get some shots in, but I mean, it's a 109E4, we are now basically equal in energy, and if he goes up, I just die. Now he keeps scissoring in front of me with full throttle, so I end up sitting behind him basically forever. But the 190 comes in that I crit and didn't finish off. Got kind of scared, don't want to stall out in front of him, he might not have an engine. But you don't need engine power to hit 20 mils when you are gliding into a fight. But I think he's just holding his energy so that he can glide further into us if he needs to do so. A little bit annoying. Luckily I have a teammate who goes for the guy that is going super slow on the deck and sacrifices also quite a bit of his energy, but at least he kills the 109. LA5 is now chasing the 190, and I don't care if he kills the 190, I just need him gone. And then lastly we have a Key 44. Now the Key 44 is also a plane that is just, well, not very fun to deal with, especially with the 50 cals being buffed. And there he goes. He basically insta-kills the LA5 because he pitches up for a 190 with a Key 44 on a 6. This game would have been super winnable if that guy had just not gone vertical in front of the Key 44. Now I get some shots here, not getting much damage in, and I ran out of ammo. I wasn't really paying attention to it. And well, I don't think I need to explain what is going to happen. I kind of had to. I get one shot, and if I don't take that shot, I die. The Key 44 has, well, plenty of opportunity to kill the P40, and he wasn't completely disabled. So I ended up eating shit quite rapidly. Another scenario, we have a 109 and a 190 on a 6, and another Key 44 of course, because who doesn't love flying that thing. But I'm gonna try and start with the 109 at a relatively high speed, so I can hopefully reverse him. I might not have the best high speed performance, but neither does he. Luckily it's a BF-109F, and while that is a very good plane, it is not very forgiving. So I'm gonna roll in front of him despite him being faster. He's going to overshoot any second now. I'm dropping my throttle to keep him close, make sure that he overshoots. Gonna use my flaps a little bit, throttle back up, so that I actually turn better but maintain a bit more energy. And now I actually have a pretty good position. I'm gonna go straight vertical, I'm gonna drop my landing flaps, I'm gonna try to cut inside of his turn. Now this is not the ideal dogfighting line, but when you are on the worst plane, you have to try to do something. And in this case, it ended up working out quite well. We get some hits in, we damage him. He's not dead quite yet, or quite dead yet, but he just kind of flies in front of us, he is damaged. And when you have a 109F with like wing damage, it is a little bit rough to keep your nose where you want it to go. Now I burn away all my speed chasing this guy to the deck, and I know I probably shouldn't have, but I'm flying a P40, this thing is not that great, so I kind of just want my kills, and I thought I'd just wrap up this fight. Additionally, we only have like one 190 in orbit. Other than that, I haven't really seen anyone climb, and I don't want the 109 to get back to his airfield, repair, and then come back later. Now luckily the Spitfire also shows up, and I have quite a bit of altitude on him. Now I'm not going too fast, so I'm gonna actually dive a little bit, go straight line, slide dive, pick up some speed, make sure that I can keep the separation if he does end up pitching for us, and I'm not gonna fly towards him. I'm gonna let him come to me. He is burning his speed, I am maintaining and even building mine, and if he tries to pitch for us, he just dies. So I'm gonna start pitching up over him. We basically have him energy trapped already, and I'm just trying to bait him into going for us. Now he doesn't want to take it, which is fine because it doesn't really matter anymore, because I already have so much position that this guy is essentially dead. Now I'm gonna dive on him here. I have pure 6. I'm coming from directly on the top, and I'm gonna throttle down a little bit to make sure that I cool my engine in this dive, and the second I'm about to pitch up, we throttle back up, and luckily the Spitfire slams it into a tree. Now I'm gonna use my energy now to start climbing a little bit. And in my climb I run into Mr. 190, and the 190 is basically the same story as before. He's better at low, medium and high speed, so I want to be careful. I want to be not too fast, because I'm gonna start compressing and then he has a major advantage, but I also don't want to be so slow that he energy traps me easily and gets a very easy shot. So I'm gonna start straightening out. I'm trying to make sure that he actually does catch me, so for now I'm actually gonna go kind of diagonal, make him think that he's going faster than he is. And then when he starts getting closer, I'm gonna start turning very shallowly, but I'm also gonna be diving slightly to kind of mask my energy level. A lot of people start zooming in once they start getting close to someone, and they just kind of tunnel on your plane and they stop looking at anything, so they kind of lose their heading, they kind of lose the angle that they're diving at, and they stop looking at the speed. And I like using this by going very wide turn. He starts cutting me off, I'm going faster than it looks like I am going, because the closer speed is much higher. It looks like he has a major energy advantage, and he tries to fly away in a straight line. Now, just like the first one, you need to keep the pressure on. Now this guy might have been fooled by the energy thing, the masking thing that I like to use, but it's not always the case that like you have a plan, you try to do something and it works out. It doesn't mean that what I did actually worked. It can also be that this guy just doesn't really know what he's doing. So I'm not gonna take all the credit for that maneuver. I might also just be a little bit lucky. But there is a trend here. People like to simply just fly away in a straight line when they have the energy advantage, which I think is an absolute waste, especially when you are on the battle plane and you already have your enemy super slow, because all you really need to do then is just keep pulling, and if you keep pulling, then I'm out of energy. There's nothing I can do. And again, we did an RTB, we tried to store our energy, make sure that we actually had some speed to defend ourselves, because there was still a Spitfire in the game. Now there's also B239, but he's ground pounding for now and he's going to end up headbutting a pillbox. Sorry to spoil it to you, but it's just going to be the Spitfire. But he's quite a bit higher than us, and while we have a decent amount of speed, and I say decent, I mean relative for this plane, so I'm going to do something that's not super smart, and I'm going to use the fact that he has more energy right now, but he's going very slow to my advantage, and then he starts diving, which is very problematic. Why? Because he actually is not interested in the head-on, but I still managed to get some hits in. It doesn't really do any damage. It's a Mark IIB, something that I really don't want to deal with. And I'm gonna just run away, and that's really all I can do. Now the thing is that the Spitfire is actually not that much slower, and he might actually be faster in this orientation. I'm not sure if he's faster in a straight line. I don't think he is, but the speed is quite comparable, and when he has this much of an energy advantage, it might turn out to be a little bit rough. So what do? I fly to my teammate, and normally you see me bitch, cope, call it whatever you want, that I want to fight the battle plane on my own, because you know, it's good footage, it's good fun, but a Spitfire, a Mark IIB, it's not fun to dogfight when you are playing something like the P40. So yeah, I'm not really interested in this fight. I'm gonna try to climb a little bit, I'm trying to bait him into going for me, and the second we get near our teammate, I'm gonna just kind of dive towards him. And yes, this is kind of bait, but I'm trying to bait the Spitfire for my teammate, and if the teammate gets attacked by the Spitfire, because the Spitfire doesn't know who to go for, I should have a decent opportunity to try and kill him. I tell him in chat what I'm going to do. I'm not gonna assume that he understands what I'm trying to do, but he says copy, so he's actually reading the chat. He probably speaks English and he knows what I'm about to do. So what do? I'm gonna go slow, or low rather, in front of the Spitfire in an attempt to get him to dive on me. Now if he doesn't dive on me, I will turn around, but he does dive on me. I'm trying to not beeline it just yet. He starts getting on pure 6. I notice that he's about to break off, then I start pulling in. Now the A36 is close enough, he has enough guns to really do something to the Spitfire, and I'm gonna start climbing again. The Spitfire sees this and he tries to go for me yet again, but then he still ends up dodging the A36. And this is perfect. The Spitfire showed from the start that he had no interest in any kind of head-on, which made me pretty confident that he would do the same thing to the A36. And he's now locked in to a dogfight because, well, the A36 is putting the pressure on, and despite having the worst plane, because he's kind of dogfighting him, he burned away a lot of the Spitfire's energy, and I'm now able to kind of come in and show him what's up. Now he dodges the rounds, I don't get any severe damage in yet again, but I'm going to send the fight right now. Pillbox gets headbutted by the B239, And the Spitfire, because he committed to the wrong dude, gives me the freest shot imaginable. And this is why it's important to keep the pressure on, even though it might look like a losing fight. But thank you A36, you are the GOAT, you won us that game by actually understanding the concept of team play. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.